Welcome to this journey into one of the most unsettling stories the graveyards of Edinburgh have ever held in their cold, silent embrace. Before we begin, comment where you're watching from, because the places we're about to walk through hide more than shadows and stone. They hide secrets that were never meant to resurface. This story is a work of fiction created purely for entertainment. Any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is entirely coincidental. What follows is a tale of obsession, mystery, and the terrifying intersections of history and the supernatural threads that reach from the fog-soaked mountains of West Virginia in 1902 all the way to Scotland in the winter of 1999. The rain had fallen 4 days, a constant gray curtain draped over the ancient city of Edinburgh. Streets glistened like oiled stone, and the wind carried the restless whispers of the past as it moved through narrow closes and alleyways. Colin Nicholson tightened his scarf and kept his head down as he entered Greyfriars Kirkyard, his boots sinking slightly into the waterlogged earth. He carried a small wooden box under his arm, simple, unremarkable, yet heavy with an unsettling purpose. The box had arrived 2 weeks earlier, shipped from the United States with no return address. Inside was a worn leather journal belonging to a woman named Marilu Ashford, whose life and disappearance had been the center of whispered Appalachian legends for nearly a century. Colin knew her story well. He had studied old folklore for years, tracing strange events that seemed to echo across continents and generations. But nothing prepared him for the photograph tucked inside the journal. It showed a dark-haired woman standing before a wooden cabin, staring directly into the camera with eyes that felt too aware. The date on the back read 1998. Marilu should have been dead for decades. Yet something in those eyes told Colin that the story had never truly ended. And tonight, in this ancient graveyard, he hoped to find answers, or at least someone who claimed to have them. A tall, thin man stood near the entrance of a stone mausoleum, his umbrella half broken and barely holding off the rain. His coat clung to his frame like it was stitched onto bone, and his nervous glances around the graveyard made him seem out of place, even among the dead. When Colin approached, the man stepped forward. "Colin Nicholson?" he asked. "Yes," Colin replied. "You must be Dr. Hawthorne." The man nodded stiffly. His eyes flicked toward the wooden box. "You brought it?" Colin held it tighter. "I did, but I want to know why we're meeting here, and what this woman has to do with Scotland." Hawthorne swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing sharply in his thin neck. "Because the journal didn't begin where you think it did," he said. "And neither did the thing connected to it." Colin frowned. "What thing?" "Not here," Hawthorne whispered. "Follow me." They moved deeper into the graveyard, weaving between tombstones carved with winged skulls and warnings about the shortness of life. The rain tapped against stone like impatient fingers. Colin felt something unsettlingly familiar in the air, coldness not caused by weather alone. It reminded him of the descriptions in Marilu's journal, the strange fog that rolled into her valley, the chilling presence she sensed long before anyone else. Hawthorne stopped at an old crypt, whose stone door was sealed with rusted chains. Moss crawled up the sides like green, creeping hands. He brushed away grime and revealed faint carvings beneath the inscription symbols that made Colin's chest tighten. He recognized them instantly. These were the same symbols Marilu had drawn in the margins of her journal, the same symbols that surrounded her cabin, the same symbols described by Elijah Turner before he vanished into the fog in 1902. These markings Colin whispered. "They shouldn't be here." "They were carved long before Marilou was born," Hawthorne said. "Long before her valley saw settlers. And long before anyone thought to connect Scotland's dead with America's lost." Colin felt an icy shiver crawl up his spine. "You're saying this symbol, this thing, traveled?" "No," Hawthorne said. "I'm saying it never left." Before Colin could speak, the air shifted. A low, distant wail echoed across the graveyard. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an animal. It was deeper, wet, mournful, vibrating the very ground beneath them. Colin froze. Hawthorne's eyes widened in terror. "You didn't open the inner envelope, did you?" Hawthorne asked sharply. Colin stiffened. "What envelope?" "The one hidden in the back cover of the journal." Colin shook his head. "No." "Why?" Hawthorne didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the fog now, spilling between the gravestones, rolling in thick and fast. For a moment, Colin swore he saw shapes moving in it, figures, twisted and jerking, as if trying to form themselves out of the mist. The wail came again, closer this time, shaking loose droplets from the branches above. "Hawthorne," Colin whispered. "What is that?" Hawthorne stepped backward, his voice thin with fear. It found the journal. The fog swarmed around the crypt, twisting into long, reaching tendrils. The rain suddenly stopped, the silence unnatural and suffocating. Colin felt pressure in his chest, heavy and deliberate. Something in the fog felt aware, watching him. Calling to him, Hawthorne grabbed Colin's arm. "We have to leave. Now." Colin stumbled as Hawthorne pulled him away from the crypt. But something compelled him to look back. Through the fog, a shape emerged. Tall, bent, dark. Its limbs were impossibly long. Its movements slow and deliberate, like it had been asleep for decades and was waking for the first time. Its head tilted toward him. Colin felt his pulse hammer in his skull. The creature wasn't attacking. It was acknowledging him, as if it knew him, as if it recognized the box he carried, as if the journal was a beacon it could no longer ignore. The fog thickened until the gravestones vanished. Hawthorne's panicked breath was the only thing proving he was still beside him. "Colin, run!" Hawthorne shouted. But Colin remained still for a single, dangerous second. He felt something reach toward him through the fog, not physically, but in his mind, brushing against his thoughts like cold fingertips. It felt familiar, like a memory he had never lived. Then the ground trembled beneath their boots. Hawthorne yanked him again, and this time Colin ran. They sprinted toward the gate, mud splashing beneath them. The wail rose behind them, louder, sharper, almost angry. Colin felt the fog grip at his ankles, like hands trying to pull him back. He clutched the box to his chest, shielding it from whatever hunted them as they reached the gate. Colin dared one final glance over his shoulder. The fog whirled violently, swallowing the pathway, the gravestones, the crypt, everything. The creature vanished into the swirling mist as if retreating back into whatever nightmare had birthed it. Then, as abruptly as it arrived, the fog receded. The graveyard fell still. The wind started again. The rain returned, and Greyfriars looked normal, almost peaceful, like it always did. Colin stood trembling, breath ragged, heart pounding. Hawthorne leaned against the gate, pale and shaking. "That wasn't meant to happen," Hawthorne whispered. "What wasn't?" Colin asked. Hawthorne looked at him, eyes haunted. "It wasn't supposed to wake up again." Colin tightened his grip on the box as a terrible realization crept through him. Whatever Marilou Ashford had faced in 1902, whatever had haunted her valley, whatever she had tried to seal away, had crossed an ocean, and it was awake. The rain hammered the streets of Edinburgh as Colin and Hawthorne hurried away from Greyfriars Kirkyard, their footsteps echoing in the narrow close. Colin kept glancing behind him, half expecting the fog to slither around the corner after them. But the street remained clear, the old stone buildings silent and wet under the glow of the street lamps. They ducked into a small tea shop still open this late, its windows fogged from the warmth inside. Hawthorne locked the door behind them with trembling hands, ignoring the confused look from the elderly woman wiping down a counter. He didn't stop until he pulled Colin to the far booth in the back, away from the windows. Only then did he speak, and his voice came out in a hoarse whisper. "You need to understand what you walked into tonight," Hawthorne began. His eyes were still flicking between shadows, as if expecting something to seep out of them. Colin set the wooden box on the table between them. "Start explaining. What was that thing in the fog?" Hawthorne clasped his hands, knuckles whitening. "It isn't a thing. It isn't alive in the way we understand it. It follows. Resonance. Imprints. Echoes left by the journal." Colin raised an eyebrow. "Echoes?" Hawthorne nodded. "When a person witnesses something truly impossible, something that does not belong to our world, their fear leaves a mark. Those marks collect around certain objects. The journal is one such object." He leaned in closer. "And whatever that creature is, it feeds on those marks." Colin tried to digest that, but his historian's mind fought against it. "Are you saying Marilou created it?" "No," Hawthorne said quickly. "But she was connected to it. Or maybe hunted by it. And she wasn't the first." His voice dropped lower. "That crypt in Greyfriars the man buried inside traveled from West Virginia nearly 200 years ago. His body came here without explanation, and he bore the same symbols carved on Marilou's cabin door." Colin's stomach twisted. He opened the box slowly, revealing the journal. The leather was cracked, the pages yellowed. The ink faded, but the weight of it felt enormous, like holding a fragment of some long-forgotten truth. Hawthorne reached out, but hesitated to touch it. The marks around that crypt, they weren't carved by human tools. They're older. You must have noticed. Colin nodded softly. They looked burned into the stone. "That's because they were?" Hawthorne exhaled. "And long before Marilou ever drew them." Colin pushed the journal aside for a moment and leaned back. "This still doesn't explain why I was sent the journal." "Why me?" Hawthorne hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Because you wrote that paper last year. The one dismissed as crackpot pseudo-anthropology." Colin's jaw tightened. "The one about transcontinental myth echoes?" "Yes." Hawthorne tapped the table. The idea that certain supernatural tales appear simultaneously in areas with no contact. Your suggestion was that these stories weren't transferred by humans, but by something else. Something that moves between places, leaving fear in its wake. Colin blinked. He had written that paper partially as a provocation, partially out of academic frustration. He didn't expect anyone to take it seriously, but someone had, and had mailed him Marilou's journal for a reason. Before he could respond, the tea shop lights flickered. The old woman behind the counter glanced up nervously. A low hum passed through the building, like air being sucked from the room. Colin and Hawthorne both froze. The humming grew louder. The lights flickered again, and then they went out. The shop plunged into darkness. Colin's pulse pounded in his ears. For a long second, no one moved. Then a faint glow appeared through the front windows, fog swirling in the street outside, illuminated by a single street lamp. except the street lamp wasn't, flickering like a normal faulty bulb. It pulsed slowly, rhythmically, like something breathing. The old woman whispered a prayer. Hawthorne gripped the edges of the booth. "It followed us," he said, voice barely audible. The pulsing light grew faster, and the fog began to thicken. At the edges of the window, pressing against the glass as if trying to seep through it, Colin felt the journal vibrating inside the box. A deep, low wail rose, muffled by the walls of the shop. "No," Hawthorne whispered. "It shouldn't be able to enter buildings." Colin didn't take his eyes off the fog. "Are you sure about that?" A sharp crack sounded through the room as the window pane split down the middle. The old woman screamed. The fog poured through the crack in thin streams, twisting like fingers seeking purchase. Colin grabbed the box and backed away toward the kitchen door. "We need to get out," he said. Hawthorne stumbled after him. They pushed into the back of the shop, the door slamming shut behind them. Colin looked around frantically. The kitchen had another exit, a metal door leading to a side alley. Hawthorne rushed to it and shoved, but the door didn't move. "It's jammed?" he gasped. The wailing sound grew louder from the front room. Something brushed against the kitchen window, something pale and stretched, like a hand pressing from the outside but not quite human. Colin grabbed a frying pan and smashed it against the window. The glass shattered outwards, scattering into the alley. The cold night air hit them like a slap. "Go," Colin said. Hawthorne climbed through first, landing in the alley puddles. Colin followed, pulling the box tightly to his chest. As soon as his feet hit the ground, a thick spear of fog shot from the broken window, wrapping itself around Colin's ankle. He stumbled and fell hard, skidding across the wet pavement. The fog tightened. Hawthorne grabbed him under the arms, pulling with all his strength. Colin dropped the box. "No," Colin choked out, clutching it tighter. The fog coiled higher, gripping his leg with impossible strength. A shape moved inside it, long bending limbs, a head that tilted unnaturally. The wail rose, deafening lie. Colin felt something cold slide into his thoughts, probing, searching. Images flashed through his mind: Marilou's cabin, the fog-choked valley, the old crypt in Scotland, symbols carved into stone, and something else, a face that looked almost human but ancient. Hollow, watching it, whispered something. He couldn't understand. Then Hawthorne let out a desperate yell and yanked Colin with enough force to break the fog's grip. They stumbled down the alley, running blindly as the fog smashed against the brick walls behind them like a living wave. They didn't stop until they burst onto a main street, where cars and people moved normally, unaware of the nightmare only. Yards away, the fog stopped at the mouth of the alley, swirling angrily but unable to cross. Colin collapsed against a wall, gasping. Hawthorne bent over, hands on his knees, drenched and trembling. "It can't cross into crowds," Hawthorne whispered. "It hides, it stalks, but it doesn't like being seen." Colin looked down at the box, fingers shaking. "It's after this. It's after what's inside," Hawthorne said, "and whatever is sealed in that envelope." Colin exhaled. Shakily, "We need to open it." Hawthorne shook his head violently. "If you open it, Colin, it won't just follow us." He looked up at the alley where the fog curled like a living serpent, waiting. "It will come for everyone." The station lights flickered again, and for a moment the entire corridor dimmed into a kind of metallic twilight. I tightened my grip on the journal, feeling its weight, like something alive. The ink inside it wasn't just writing anymore. It felt like motion, like something shifting, like something reacting to me. I didn't know whether that should terrify me or reassure me that I wasn't losing my mind. Varric's voice echoed ahead of us, low and urgent. "Stop walking, both of you." Dust froze, and I stepped beside him, the three of us forming a tense line in the corridor. Varric's feathers bristled, an involuntary reflex I'd started learning to read. Fear disguised as alertness. His Talon pointed toward the far end of the hall, where thin trails of black vapor crawled across the ceiling like veins. I didn't need him to explain. The same thing had been happening for hours, now places where the breach energy seeped through. The station's metal, trying to reshape the environment into something it understood. Something organic, something hungry. Dust crouched, letting out a low exhale. It's spreading faster. Way faster. Way faster. "No," Varric murmured. "It's responding." "Responding to what?" Dust asked. All three of them turned toward me before I even realized what that implied. The journal pulsed just once, like a heartbeat syncing with my own. I swallowed hard. It's not reacting to me. It can't be. "No offense," Dust said, "but after watching ink rearrange itself and spell out your name, I'm willing to put my money on the journal having a personal interest." He wasn't wrong, but admitting that felt like feeding something dangerous. We pressed forward carefully, moving under the spreading black veins as they pulsed above us, almost sensing us, almost tasting us. Then the station shook out a deep, metallic groan rippled through the structure like something massive had crashed into the hole. Lights flared, alarms triggered, and for a brief moment gravity fluctuated. I stumbled, bracing myself against the wall, but Varric stayed perfectly balanced. Avian physiology had its perks. Dust was already sprinting ahead. That came from the outer ring. "Come on," we ran. Metal clanged beneath our boots as we cut through service passages and emergency access tunnels. Every few steps we passed distortions, bulges in the walls, places where metal had softened into organic curves. The breach was reshaping the station like clay. When we reached the observation deck, Dust slammed the door controls and the shutters peeled open. My stomach dropped. Floating just outside the station was a structure, if you could even call it that. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't anything built by intention. It looked like a mass of twisting bone, sinew, and crystalline branching tendrils woven together into a drifting, pulsing sphere. Colors shimmered across its surface, sickly impossible. Colors that didn't belong in this universe, moving in patterns that hurt to look at. Dust whispered, "What in the nine hells?" Varric's feathers flattened entirely. That is a breach node. I've only seen them in high-level threat dossiers. They do not come this close to inhabited stations." "And now one has?" I said quietly, as if hearing me, or maybe sensing the journal against my chest. The node shifted. A long crack appeared across its surface. Not a crack, an opening. Something inside began pushing through. Dust grabbed my arm. "We need to move. We need to move now." But I couldn't move, because the journal began vibrating so violently I thought it would tear itself apart. I opened it instinctively, and the pages flipped rapidly until they settled on an entirely blank sheet. Then, slowly, lines began to form. No, not lines, a sketch. A sketch of the thing emerging from the node. Vark stepped behind me, talons trembling. How? How is it drawing that? What is it showing us? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because the sketch was moving, the shape growing clearer with each stroke. A massive form, tall and impossibly thin, with limbs that tapered into razor curves. Its head was a silhouette of twisting spines, and its eyes, if they were eyes, were hollow and bottomless. Below the sketch, words formed. "It remembers you." My vision blurred. A sharp ringing filled my head. Dust shook me. "What does that mean? What remembers him?" Kale talked to me. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because something inside me had gone cold. A memory, no. A fragment of once surfaced. A flash of a landscape I had never seen. A sky that wasn't a sky. A towering shape watching me through a tear in reality. I whispered at her with ears brushed across my mind. "You opened the first door." I staggered backward, clutching my skull. Varric grabbed the journal. "Close it. Close it now." He snapped it shut and the ringing stopped instantly. But outside the observation window, the creature pushing through the node slowly turned its head toward us. Toward me. And even though there was vacuum between us, even though science said sound couldn't travel, I felt its voice inside my bones. "The second door waits." Dust dragged me away from the window. "We need to run. We need to get out of here, Cal. Move." But I didn't move. Because the journal, even closed, was still warm, still alive. And I knew deep down that whatever was coming next wasn't something we could just run from. It was coming for me. And it wasn't alone. The alarms wouldn't stop. They screamed through every corridor, every metal plate, every hollow vent shaft, like the station itself was trying to warn us. Dust pulled me down the hallway, practically dragging me. My legs felt numb, my thoughts colder than vacuum. But the journal throbbed against my chest with every step like it had a heartbeat that wanted to sync with mine. Like it wanted to take over. We rounded a corner, nearly colliding with a group of security officers sprinting in the opposite direction. One of them, a grizzled woman with a scar across her jaw, shouted, "Emergency lockdown. Outer ring breach. Move to central safe blocks." Varric flashed his ID crest. "We need access to the command hub." She didn't even slow down. "No one gets in. We lost 3 decks already." Then she vanished down the hall with her team, leaving us in the thick red glow of a malfunctioning alarm light. Dust leaned against the wall, panting. 3 decks? It's only been minutes. Varric's voice wavered in a way I'd never heard before. Breaches don't spread linearly. They spread like infection. And I didn't need him to explain. We could hear it, metal bending, creaking, warping somewhere nearby. The breach was rewriting the structure of the station. The node outside wasn't just docked, it was feeding. I forced myself to stand upright. We need to see what command knows. We need to understand why that thing recognized me. Dust grabbed my shoulders. "Kale, it didn't recognize you. It wants you." "There's a difference," Varric swallowed. "He's right. But I couldn't run from it. Not anymore. Not when the journal knew things, showed things before they happened. Not when the black veins crawling through the walls pulsed whenever I walked past them. Not when the creature outside looked straight at me across the vacuum of space. We reached the elevator shaft leading to the command hub, only to find it sealed by thick blast doors. Dust smashed the emergency panel, sparks flying. "Dead. I can't override this." Varric stepped forward, scanning the reinforced metal. "Even with my access, they've cut everything off. They're terrified of whatever's coming through those outer decks." A tremor rolled through the floor beneath us. Not an impact, a pulse, as if something massive moved inside the station's skin. The lights flickered again, and this time, the black veins on the ceiling bulged downward, as if reacting to something beneath us. No, not something. Someone. I opened the journal. I didn't mean to. One moment, it was strapped shut. The next, its cover peeled open like it wanted to breathe. Pages flipped wildly and stopped on a rough, sketch line shaking. Messy, urgent. A door, a metal bulkhead. The one right behind us. Dust cursed. Oh Hellcale, don't look, but... The sketch shifted. It cracked down the middle, and something thin pushed through. In the drawing, a long finger. The metal behind us groaned. Dust grabbed my arm. Run! We sprinted just as the bulkhead erupted outward. Razor-thin limbs shot through, slicing the air where we'd been standing a heartbeat before. The lights blew out, plunging the corridor into a strobing chaos of sparks and shadows. Metal shrieked as something enormous forced its way through the gap. I dared a glance back. Mistake, the creature was tall, far too tall, its limbs folding unnaturally as it squeezed through the corridor. Its skin wasn't skin, but a shifting texture of bone and shadow. Its head scraped the ceiling even when hunched, and its eyes were wrung. Not hollow like the sketch, not empty, alive, and fixed on me. Dust pulled out his pulse pistol and fired. Bolts of energy tore into the creature's torso, but instead of burning it, the bolts sank into its body like stones thrown into deep water. The wounds closed instantly. Grabbed Dust's arm. Don't shoot it. It absorbs energy. So what do? Throw rocks at it? The creature lunged. Its speed was unreal. A single swipe tore through the wall, slicing pipes and conduits like paper. Steam blasted outward, filling the corridor with a blinding haze. The creature's silhouette moved through it, atoll, twisted, unstoppable. Varric shoved us into a maintenance hatch. In, now. We crawled through the narrow tunnel, metal rattling. As the creature slammed into the walls behind us, Dust kicked the hatch closed, but a blade-like limb speared straight through it, barely missing his head. Move! He shouted. We scrambled forward, the tunnel barely wide enough to breathe. The creature's limbs scraped along the outer hull of the shaft, following us, hunting us, and then silence. Complete, unnatural silence. Dust froze. Did it leave? Varric shook his head. No. It's listening. I held my breath. Seconds passed like hours. Then, inside my mind, like a whisper forced through a keyhole, Kale. I almost screamed. Dust clamped a hand over my mouth. The creature waited. Waited, then the metal bent, inward beside my head, denting as if poked by a finger from the outside. It knew exactly where I was, Varric whispered. It's tracking the journal. Destroy it now. Dust hissed. We don't even know what it is. We know what it attracts. They looked at me. I looked at the journal. It lay open, glowing faintly. On the page was a single sentence written in ink that hadn't existed a moment ago. If you destroy me, you open the third door. I slammed it shut, shaking. Dust pulled. My hand. Come on, we keep moving. We find a place the thing can't fit. In this station, Varric said. There is no such place. He wasn't joking. We crawled until the maintenance tunnel emptied into a vertical shaft. Varric jumped first, spreading his wings just enough to glide down the narrow space. Dust. Grabbed a cable and slid. I followed, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my teeth. Halfway down, the lights went out completely. A sound echoed above us. A metallic scrape. Then another. It was in the shaft. Dust shouted. Drop. Drop now. We let go. Free fall. Darkness swallowing us. The creature's limbs speared down past me, missing by inches. I hit the bottom hard, pain shooting up my legs. Dust rolled beside me. Varric landed rough, but still on his feet. Then we heard it. The creature, forcing its body down the shaft. Fast, too fast. Dust grabbed me, voice cracking. Kale, if you have anything the journal can use to save us now, would be a very good time. I opened the journal with shaking hands. Blank. Pages. Nothing. The creature screeched above us, the sound tearing through my skull. I clenched my jaw. Come on, show me something. Show me anything. The page remained blank. The creature was almost on us. Dust raised his pistol, even though it wouldn't help. Varric stepped in front of us, wings flared wide like he could shield us. I closed my eyes, whispering, "Why me? Why are you doing this to me?" The journal heated in my hands. A word burned onto the page. Remember. And suddenly a memory hit me. One that wasn't mine. A doorway, a choice, a promise I had made in a place that didn't exist. A voice saying, "You opened the first door. You will open the last." The journal snapped shut. The shaft exploded. With light, the creature screamed, and for a moment, he wasn't in the station at all. I was somewhere else, somewhere impossible. Somewhere the creature feared. Dust grabbed me as reality snapped back. Kale, what did you do? What was that? I couldn't answer, because I didn't know. But the creature wasn't in the shaft anymore. It was gone, and the journal was ice cold. Too cold. Varric stared at me like seeing me for the first time. Kale, something just answered you. Dust. Swallowed hard, and whatever it was, scared the hell out of that thing. I exhaled shakily. Then we need to find out what. The shaft walls hummed long after the creature vanished, like the metal itself was trying to forget what had crawled through it. Dust kept one hand on my arm as if afraid I'd drift away into whatever place the journal had dragged me moments before. Varric stood motionless, feathers flattened tight, staring down the dark passage like the thing might return, but it didn't return. It fled. Something had scared it, that something had come from me, or worse. Through me, my hands were still trembling around the cold journal. I tried to open it, but Dust grabbed my wrist. Hold on. Before you flip that thing open again, tell us what you saw. I swallowed, tasting metal and fear. I didn't see it, I was inside it. The same place the sketches come from. Varric flinched. Beyond the veil. No, I whispered. Past it. They exchanged a look that wasn't comforting. Dust crouched in front of me. Kale, what did you remember? I don't think I remembered anything, I said slowly. I think I was shown something. The words felt wrong in my mouth. Too heavy. Too close to the truth. A door. Another one. Groaned. No, I said. The first one. Silence. Varric spoke first. What do you mean? I think I opened it. A long time ago. Or maybe in another place. Another version of me. Another timeline? My voice cracked. I don't know. I can't explain it. But whatever I touched back then, it knows me. It remembered me before I remembered myself. Varric pressed a talon to his forehead. This is why our ancestors burned their records of the breach. Knowledge becomes infection. Dust sighed. Well, lucky for us. Kale's already infected and we're already stuck in the middle of this nightmare. He wasn't wrong. The station shuddered again this time deeper, like a groan from the spine of some dying beast. The lights flickered, but didn't return. Whatever system still worked, We're running on emergency backups. Varric scanned the corridor. We need a vantage point to assess damage. This section connects to the hydroponics ring. If it hasn't been consumed, we can regroup there. Dus nodded, and maybe find survivors. We moved. The passage felt smaller than before, like the station was shrinking around us. Every dim corner looked like a place the creature could slip from. Every shadow felt stretched, thin, unnatural. We reached the hatch to hydroponics and froze-vines covered the entrance. But they weren't plants. They were metal. Melted into curling organic shapes, as if the breach had forced the steel to imitate life. The door pulsed faintly, like a breathing lung. Dus made a face. Oh, great. The garden's trying to kill us too. Varric approached carefully, placing a talon on the twisted vines. He recoiled instantly. Warm, alive, I whispered. The gentle throbbed once, and the vines uncoiled, slowly, deliberately. The hatch peeled open on its own. Dus stepped back. Nope, absolutely not. We are not going into a room that invites us inside. But we didn't have a choice. A voice came from deeper within the hydroponics ring. Is someone there? Please over here. A survivor. Dust groaned. Damn it. Fine. But if these vines grab me, I'm burning this place to the ground. We stepped through. The air inside was humid, thick with the scent of earth and something sharper like ozone after lightning. But the plants? The plants were wrong. They weren't dying. They were thriving, overgrown, pulsing in rhythm with the same dark veins we saw on the walls. They bent in unnatural directions, leaves twisting toward us like curious eyes. We followed. The voice to the central garden chamber and saw her a young technician in a torn uniform, crouched beside a glowing console. Thank God, she breathed. I thought I was alone. Dus knelt beside her. Are you hurt? Just scared? She whispered. Something forced its way into the ventilation system. It tore through the decks. I hid in here when everything started changing. Varric circled her slowly, suspicious. What do you mean, changing? She motioned around the chamber. This? The growth? The colors? The way everything feels like it's breathing? Dust blinked. Okay, but why didn't it kill you? Everything else we've seen is trying to eat us, stab us, or stare into our souls. She hesitated, then looked at me directly. It didn't hurt me because it spoke to me. My blood went cold. What did it say? She took a shaky breath. It said, "You were coming?" Dust's hand went to his pistol. Kale, step back. But I didn't move. The girl's eyes flickered, just for an instant shimmering with an impossible color beneath her natural iris. She whispered, voice trembling. It said, "To welcome you." Varric's feathers shot up. Back. Too late. All at once, the vines in the chamber writhed upright, snapping tight like tendons. Dust tried to fire, but the plants knocked his weapon aside. Varric slashed at them, cutting several down but more replaced them. And the girl stood calmly, unnaturally calmly. She stepped toward me, eyes glowing brighter beneath her human ones. Voice layered with something ancient beneath the surface. It's waiting for you, Kale. Dust lunged in front of me. Stay back. The vines grabbed him instantly, wrapping around his arms and legs, suspending him mid-air. Varric tried to reach him, but another vine lashed across his chest, throwing him to the ground. The girl smiled, a soft, eerie, knowing smile. Do you hear it yet? she whispered. The third door? It calls to you? I stepped backward, shaking my head. I don't want any of this. But you chose this, she said gently. Long ago. Her body seomed violecity, her spine arched, and her eyes split open with a second vertical, pear-black reflective. Wrong, she screamed, not in pain, in transformation. The journal tore itself out of my grip. It flew open, pages slamming outward in a burst of impossible wind. The girl's scream doubled, layered with something vast coming through her voice. Dust thrashed in the vines. Kale, do something, Varek shouted. Close the journal. Close it. I ran toward it. The pages whipped violently, sketches appearing and disappearing faster than the eye could catch. Doors, eyes, shapes, stars, maps. That moved like living things. The girl's body lifted off the ground. Her voice tore into 1,000 echoes. Open the door. I slammed the journal shut with all my force. The chamber exploded with light. The vines shrieked. Dust fell. Varek shielded his face, and the girl collapsed silently to the ground. Unconscious or dead, I couldn't tell. I stood there, chest heaving. Jerna clutched to me like a lifeline. Dust crawled over, coughing. Please, tell me, that worked. I looked at the journal. It was still warm, still alive, still waiting. Varek whispered hoarsely. Kale, what did you just stop? I stared at the girl's motionless body, then at the twisting plants around us, shrinking away from me. And I answered with the only truth I had, I think. I stopped the third door from opening. Dust closed his eyes in relief. Varek nodded. Shakily. And then the journal vibrated in my hands. A new line etched itself into the cover, not stopped. Delayed. My heart stopped. Dust's eyes widened. Kale? What does that mean? I swallowed, then read the final words forming beneath. The fourth door opens next, and the station groaned as if something enormous had just woken up. The groan rolled through the station like the sound of metal mourning its own death. Dust scrambled to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth as vines retreated into the walls. Varek helped the technician girl, her body limp, eyes shut, breathing shallow but steady. For a moment, we all just listened. Silence, not peaceful. Silence, waiting silence. A calm that felt like the breath before a scream. Dust glanced at me. I'm afraid to ask, but what's a fourth door supposed to be? I opened the journal slowly. Its cover throbbed beneath my fingertips, like veins pulsing under skin. The pages fluttered, but this time I forced them still. I didn't want to see what came next. But my fear didn't matter. The journal opened itself. A single phrase appeared. Across the page, in ink that moved like smoke. The fourth door is not a place. It is a presence. Varek hissed sharply. Presence. No. No, no, no. That means it's already here. Dust threw his hands up. Of course it is. Why wouldn't? A cosmic horror beast sitting in the next room like it owns the place. The station lights flickered again, then died. Everything plunged into darkness. A deep, resonant vibration filled the air like the structure was humming, a note too low to recognize. The plants shrank away. Even the walls seemed to curve subtly. Inward, like the metal itself was bracing for something. Varek's voice trembled in the dark. Stay close. Do not wander. Do not. He went silent. Not because something interrupted him, but because we all heard it. Eh? Sound from the far end of the hydroponics chamber. Not footsteps, Not breathing, not an animal, a slow, deliberate tapping metal against metal echoing. Down the darkened hallway. Tap dot tap dot tap, Dust whispered. Is that someone knocking? The journal answered with a fresh line of ink. It is learning the shape of this world. My skin crawled. Varric pulled the unconscious girl into his arms. We must get to the command core. If anything on this station still functions, we can force a lockdown. Will that stop it? I asked. No, he admitted, but it will slow it. Dust grabbed my arm. Then let's move before whatever that is finishes its tapping. Practice. We slipped through a secondary maintenance corridor, using the glow of Dust's wrist light to guide us. The narrow passage bent sharply downward, metal groaning as the pressure systems struggled. The deeper we went, the worse the distortions became. Walls warping inward, floors softening beneath our boots like cartilage, whispers running through the pipes, too faint to understand. Dust muttered, "This place is turning into a haunted digestive tract." Varric shot him a look. "Your metaphors are deeply unhelpful." "I'm stressed." Another tremor hit stronger. A pipe above us burst, releasing a spray of shimmering liquid that drifted upward instead of falling. Gravity flickered. For half a second, my body lifted off the floor, then slammed back down as systems stabilized. Dust groaned. "This station is coming apart. We need to get to the core now." We climbed a ladder to the next deck. Halfway up, the journal rumbled in my chest again, like a heartbeat synced with something huge in the walls. Dust grabbed my sleeve. "Kale." "What now?" The journal glowed faintly, pages flipping. A sketch emerged. A large circular chamber. A central sphere, suspended by metal arms. The command core. Below it, one more line. "It waits there." Dust swore. "Fantastic. The cosmic nightmare wants to meet you in the one place we're actually trying to reach." But we had no choice. We pushed on as we reached the final bulkhead separating us from the command core. Dust paused and pressed his ear against the metal. He froze. "Dust," I whispered. He didn't answer at first. Then, "Kale, it's breathing." Varric went rigid, and then the bulkhead opened. Not slid. Not unlocked. It unfolded, peeling back like the petals of a steel flower. Inside, the command core glowed with faint emergency lights. Steam drifted from broken vents. The central sphere flickered with dying holograms, and standing beneath it, a silhouette tall, thin. Limbs too. Long. Head crowned with twisting bone-like spines, the same shape that had crawled from the breach node, the same shape from the journal sketch. It turned toward us slowly. Dust raised his weapon. "Don't move." The creature moved anyway, not stepping, gliding. Its joints didn't bend. Its body didn't sway. It floated across the floor. It's like the shadows carried it. My heart pounded. The journal trembled violently. The creature stopped directly in front of me. Then it spoke, not aloud, inside my skull. A depthless, echoing voice. "We remember you." My breath hitched. Dust stepped between us. Back, up. The creature ignored him completely. Its hollow eyes stared into mine. "You opened the first door. You denied the third. Now the fourth stands before you." I trembled. "What do you want from me?" Its head tilted. "To finish what you began." The journal flew open in my hands, pages whipping toward a sketch of a handprint glowing with light. The creature extended its thin, talon limb toward me. Dust shouted. Varek lunged. The unconscious girl suddenly convulsed, but everything froze. Because the creature whispered one final message directly into my mind. Touch my hand, and remember everything. The room tilted, the lights shattered, the journal blazed with white fire, and I reached out, not by choice, by memory, by fate. Our hands touched, and my vision exploded into a world I had seen before, a world beyond physics, beyond sanity, beyond anything a human should survive. And in that moment, I remembered everything. Light swallowed me whole. Not white light, not anything like the glow of a star or a lamp. This light felt alive, a cold, ancient intelligence pressing against my mind. It didn't illuminate. It consumed, peeling back layers of memory like wet. Papered out at first, I thought I was dying. Then I realized the truth. I wasn't dying. I was returning. I stood in a world that wasn't a world at all, a landscape made of flowing geometry, structures shifting with each breath. Mountains of glass dripped upward into the sky. Rivers flowed in spirals, twisting into impossible knots. Stars flickered like living organisms, pulsing in patterns that felt like language. And at the very center of this place, a massive obsidian gate. I knew it instantly. The first door, the same shape etched 1,000 times in the journal's pages. But here, it loomed over me like a skyscraper made from frozen night, covered in markings that crawled like insects. Someone stood beside it. Someone who looked exactly like me. Not similar, not related. Me, same eyes, same posture, same scar on the brow. But his expression was hollow, drained of humanity. His eyes were black, reflecting the gate's surface like ink mirrors. He turned when he sensed me. "You finally remember," he said, voice echoing in a way buddies shouldn't be able to produce. My chest tightened. "What are you?" "I am you," he whispered. "The part you abandoned, the part that stepped through the first door when the universe was still young." My pulse hammered. "That's impossible. I wasn't alive when this door existed." "You weren't born?" he corrected. "You were made." The light trembled. The gate behind him split slightly, black fire spilling out like liquid void. He walked toward me, hands clasped behind his back, as calm as a god strolling through his domain. "You opened the first door. You let them in," he said softly. "You were curious. You wanted answers. You wanted to see what lay beyond. I didn't. You did." His voice cut like glass, and when you understood the cost, you ran. You tore yourself apart, split your consciousness, buried your memories in 100 stolen lifetimes. My breathing stuttered. "Why would I do that?" "To escape them," he said. "To hide from the ones who followed you through." He pointed toward the horizon. Shapes formed. Not creatures, not beings. Presences, tall. Silhouettes that shifted like shadows underwater. Their outlines almost, but not entirely human. They moved with the slow, deliberate grace of predators in no rush to claim their prey. The ones from the journal sketches. The ones clawing their way into the station. The creature that held my hand. "They were imprisoned until you opened the first door," Mimir said. "And when you fled, they pursued. Through dimensions. Through time. Through every identity you took." He stepped closer. "You cannot run anymore." The truth washed over me like icy water. The journal wasn't cursed. It wasn't ancient. It wasn't found. It was mine. a fragment of my memory, a record of what I had done and what I had tried to forget. My double circled me, hands lightly touching the air around my shoulders as if shaping something invisible. "You were once what they needed," he said. "A guide, a bridge, a key. I'm not that person anymore," I whispered. "Then they will remake you." The horizon split open. The silhouettes moved. Faster, closer. The world quaked with their hunger. But something inside me shifted. A spark, a memory buried beneath memories. "I didn't just open the first door," I said slowly. "I closed it too." My double paused. For the first time, genuine emotion flickered across his face. Fear. "That is why we split," I continued. "You kept the knowledge. I kept the choice." The obsidian gate behind him groaned, cracked. A pressure wave rolled across the landscape, shaking the ground beneath our feet. The creatures surged closer. My double stepped toward me, anger twisting. His features. "You cannot stop what is already beginning." I stepped forward to meet him. I did, once. A shockwave blasted outward, light erupting from my chest, blinding, pulsing, ripping through the dimension. My double staggered back, hissing like something burned. The ground split beneath us. The geometric mountains shattered. The sky turned inside out, and the creatures, they recoiled. Not from fear, from recognition. Of me, their whispers filled the air. 1,000 voices layered atop each other. "You return. The guide, the key, the one who opened." I yelled back through the collapsing world. "I am not your key anymore." The dimension shattered like glass. The world imploded. And then darkness, pure, suffocating darkness, until a small, distant sound pulled me back, dust shouting my name. "Kale! Breathe!" I gasped as reality slammed back into me. The station's command core reformed around my vision. Smoke, sparks, the smell of burning circuits. Dust held me by the shoulders, shaking. "Mikhail, stay with us." I looked around. Varric was dragging the unconscious technician girl behind a console. The creature, the one that held my hand, was crouched in the corner, its massive form trembling, screeching in a strange, glitching cry. It wasn't attacking, it was afraid. Of me. Dust stared in disbelief. "Kale, what did you do?" "Its skin. Islukit's peeling off." The creature's body distorted, unraveling like smoke caught in an air current. I tried to stand, my legs shaking. I remembered. Dust frowned. Remembered what? I turned toward the glitching creature, toward the journal. Glowing like molten metal in my hands, toward the far wall where a new mark was burning itself into the steel, symbol I knew intimately. A symbol from the first door. The station trembled. Lights flickered, and the air warped as something massive brushed against the edges of reality. I swallowed hard. They know where I am now. Dust's face went pale. "Who?" I stared at the glowing mark on the wall, at the door-shaped outline forming in the metal, and answered. "The ones who followed me through the first door." The wall cracked. Dust looked around desperately. "Kale, we need to run." "No," I whispered, because something else was happening. The creature in the corner, the one we feared, stopped glitching, stopped screeching, and slowly, it knelt not in collapse. In reverence, Dust's voice shook. "Why is it doing that?" I didn't move. I already knew. "It remembers," I said quietly. "What I used to be." Dust grabbed my jacket. Kale, what does that mean? The wall split open. A dark, rippling void swirled behind the cracks. A voice echoed through the chamber vast, layered, ancient. The guide has awakened. The path opens. And as the fourth door began to tear its way into our reality, Dust whispered, the one thing none of us wanted to hear. Kale, I think they're coming for you. The moment I stepped back onto the fractured metal platform, the silence felt wrong, too deliberate, too heavy, like the entire station was holding its breath. Dus and Varek flanked me, both tense, weapons ready but trembling slightly. Not from fear, no. We were far past simple fear now. This was the kind of trembling that came when reality itself felt like thin glass under your feet. The air shimmered. Not with heat, not with light. Something else. Something I still didn't have words for. It was the same distortion I'd seen. In my dreams, in the drawings the journal made, before I ever understood what they meant. The kind of shimmer that told you a boundary was thinning. The node is expanding. Varek whispered, feathers flat against his skull. If it breaches the core, nothing in this system survives. Dust's jaw tightened. Then we stop it before it opens the next door. But the next door wasn't somewhere out there. It was here. It was me. The journal throbbed gently under my palm, like a soft heartbeat syncing with mine. I didn't open it, didn't dare, but I knew it didn't matter anymore. The connection was already made. Whatever intelligence existed behind the breach already had a thread tied to me. A low tone thrummed through the stationed deep, vibrating, metallic. The lights dimmed to blood-red emergency levels. Dust reached for my shoulder but froze when the floor rippled beneath us, as if the metal had turned briefly to liquid. Then it rose. A shape climbed through the rippling surface, tall and skeletal, made of sharp angles and pulsing veins of an impossible blue-white glow. It wasn't the same creature we'd seen at the node. It was smaller, humanoid in proportion, but its movements were precise and predatory, as if every gesture had been rehearsed across 1,000 different worlds. It looked directly at me. The Secador recognizes its bearer. Its voice wasn't a sound. It was a pressure inside my skull. Varek winced, talons digging into the floor. Dus swore and raised his weapon. Don't, I said. It won't matter. The creature tilted, its head studying me like a puzzle missing half its pieces. You once stood beyond the threshold, it said. You once saw the endless shape. I don't remember, I said quietly. You will. The journal vibrated violently. Pages fluttered open on their own, flipping and flipping until they stopped on a completely white sheet. Then the ink bled across the page like liquid shadow, forming an image that made my heart cease. It was me, standing in a place of spiraling light and impossible geometry somewhere outside physical space. Somewhere beyond the breach. Dust's voice cracked. Kale, is that you? I don't know, I whispered. But I did. Somewhere in the lost fragments of my mind, in the empty spaces where memories should have lived, something stirred. The creature stepped closer. Its presence bent the air around us. The node prepares for convergence. The third door will open when your memory returns. No, Dust snapped, moving between us. He's not going anywhere with you. The creature didn't even acknowledge him. It kept its hollow gaze fixed on me. The boundary dissolves. You must choose your side. My side, I said, is here. The station shook violently so hard Dust stumbled into me. Outside the cracked viewing window, the breach node pulsed like a heartbeat. Another ripple spread outward, twisting space into spirals of shimmering distortion. Varric hissed. It's beginning the collapse sequence. Dust grabbed my arm, panic raw in his eyes. Whatever you're connected to, break it. Break it now or we all die. I opened the journal. The ink was already moving, forming lines faster than anything human could draw. A map, a pattern, a sequence of symbols I somehow understood without knowing why. A way to close the door. But there was something else. A cuss. Kale, Varric said quietly. What does it want you to do? My throat tightened. It wants me to remember. To become whatever I used to be. Dust shook his head. No. You're not giving yourself to that thing. We fight. Together. The creature straightened, energy pulsing through its veins. The convergence cannot be halted by force. Maybe not, I said, but it can be rewritten. The symbols on the page glowed actual light bleeding through the paper. The journal heated in my hands, each mark burning into the surface like molten metal. The creature lunged. Dust fired Varric. Leaped. Everything happened at once. The creature passed straight through. Dusts shot like smoke. It reached for the journal, claws glistening with iridescent energy. But Varric struck first, ramming his whole body into it. The impact sent both of them crashing into the wall, sparks flying everywhere. Dust grabbed my wrist. Kale, whatever you're doing, finish it. I focused on the symbols. They twisted, shifted, rearranged themselves into a spiral pattern I'd seen only once during that dream. The one memory that wasn't a memory. The page ignited. Light burst from the journal, swallowing the corridor in a blinding wave. The creature screamed in pain, but in rage. You cannot erase what you are. I'm not erasing, I said. I'm choosing. The light intensified. The station shook harder, alarm shrieking. Dust shielded his eyes. Varric pulled himself free from the creature's grasp just as its form began dissolving into streaks of white and blue static. The note outside cracked. A second scream tore through my skull. The journal's pages burned away into ash, and then into pure light, and then into nothing. And as the last piece vanished, the connection snapped. The creature collapsed into a heap of fading fragments. The note shattered like glass. Silence followed. Heavy, final, absolute dust slowly lowered his arm. Kale? It's gone. Varric stood shakily. You closed it. The breach note? The second door? All of it. I nodded, though exhaustion dragged at every part of me. Yeah. Dust exhaled hard. Then let's get the hell out of here before something else decides to wake up. We walked away from the wreckage together, the station still trembling, but surviving. The journal was gone, but the weight on my chest felt lighter than it had since this whole nightmare started. And for the first time, the air didn't feel like it was waiting for something. It felt free, just like I finally was. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, the impossible, and the terrifying forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what kind of nightmare you want to explore next.